If you have any interest in classic American women's fashion, then you've likely heard of the Seven Sisters Colleges. All based in the Northeast, Barnard, Bryn Mawr, Mount Holyoke, Radcliffe, Smith, Wellesley, and Vassar are historically women's private liberal arts colleges who established their own style. The colleges were all founded in the late 19th century at a time when women weren't allowed to enroll in Ivy League universities.
Naturally, these colleges established a style rooted in exclusivity, reflecting their rigorous education rivaling their male counterparts.
There's absolutely no doubt that the Seven Sisters are iconic institutions within the American collegiate system, but they're not the only historically women's colleges in the Northeast. William Smith College in Geneva, New York, a small city in the upstate Finger Lakes region, was founded in 1908 and has just as rich of a history as the Seven Sisters. As a college founded on the basis of radical thought, it's no surprise that William Smith took inspiration from the radical style of the Seven Sisters colleges. But before we delve into the fashion of the schools, let's examine why the secret 8th Women's College is relatively underground today. William Smith College was founded in 1908 after a visionary individual was interested in the development of Geneva, New York. William Smith himself was a spiritual man, and he felt called to found a college under spiritual auspices. Smith began to build a college near his house, but then quickly realized that he didn't have enough money to do so. Around the same time, he became friends with suffragettes Miss Elizabeth Smith Miller and her daughter, Anne Fitzhugh Miller. Elizabeth had a radical upbringing. She was raised by parents who helped fugitive enslaved people escape on the Underground Railroad. Needless to say, this shaped Elizabeth's morals, and she quickly became interested in equality for all. Like her mother, Anne was an ardent suffragette, and she became president of the Geneva Political Equality Club. The mother and daughter duo were known to host eclectic tea parties, and were even known to invite other suffragettes and cultists. Eventually, Smith was introduced to Anna Botsford Comstock, Cornell University's first female professor and suffragette, where she became an advisor of his. Ann Miller and Anna Comstock wanted Smith to found a coeducational school, but sadly he didn't have enough funds. The president of Hobart College, a men's college also located in Geneva, New York, heard about Smith's interest in investing in education and jumped at the opportunity of acquiring some cash for his college. President Langdon C. Stewardson knew that his college needed money. Hobart had less than 100 students and was on the brink of bankruptcy, so any investment by Smith would have been a huge help to him. Smith himself wasn't interested in helping Stewardson because he wanted to use his money towards helping women, and with being a spiritualist, aiding a church college didn't really interest him. Stewardson then suggested the creation of a women's college associated with Hobart, where they would share some equipment and staff. This way, everybody could save money and Hobart would be able to expand their curriculum. They decided that the colleges would be coordinate, with women being taught in separate classes from men, as to not mar the traditions of Hobart since its 1822 founding. Along with this, Hobart College would be off-bound to William Smith students. They were allowed to go to the chapel and the library, but they couldn't use the paths within the school. They'd have to use public sidewalks. Like the Seven Sisters Colleges, William Smith is a private liberal arts school that has a rich history including athletics, a booming social scene, and even the signature white dress traditions. Starting in 1926, the consortium of the Seven Sisters Colleges was established. They held yearly conferences to discuss self-governance, fundraising, inclusivity, and more. Why William Smith College wasn't in attendance of one of these conferences before or during 1926 is unknown, but it likely has to do with the fact that William Smith himself passed after a battle with severe illness in 1912. Today I've met many Willie Smithers, which is the possibly outdated nickname for the school's attendees, who have decided to attend the college due to various inabilities to go to one of the Seven Sisters. William Smith College is abundant with women passionate about pursuing a prestigious education surrounded by like-minded women. This is immediately apparent when glancing at any student of a historically women's college, as style can introduce an individual without them uttering a single word. Did you know that the prep school style you think of today originates at the Seven Sisters Colleges? Think Gossip Girl, Gilmore Girls, Clueless. We have all the Northeast women's colleges to thank for their iconic looks. But what exactly is the coveted Seven Sisters style? Let's go back to the 1800s to examine its origins. In the late 19th century, in an effort to create a sense of community in their newly founded schools, Barnardites, Smithies, Vassarites, Martyrs, Sibs, Cliffies, and Moho girls established a style that exploded in popularity over the years. Inspired by the Ivy League tradition of incorporating sportswear into everyday looks, women of the colleges donned blazers, letter sweaters, and letterman jackets that translated well on and off the field. In the 1910s and 20s, wearing more obvious homages to menswear was all the rage, challenging the traditional gender roles of the time. In the 1930s, exceptionally worn-in saddle shoes, kilts, striped scarves, button-down blouses, and neckties in college colors came onto the scene. With Bermuda being a popular vacation spot for the girls and their families during this time, it's only natural that a certain island influence would emerge. Bermuda shorts became a defining clothing item of female collegiate style, varying in colors and patterns as the garment evolved. The clothing these women were wearing weren't just comfortable, they actually signified a power shift given to the well-educated women. You see, these clothing items that many of the women wore actually originate from prep school uniforms. So by taking something that was once dictated by an authority figure and choosing to wear that into adulthood was an awfully feminist ideal of the time. These radical fashion choices would start a style revolution that would change the wardrobes of women everywhere. The classic Seven Sisters style that we know and love today is a reaction to the post-war and post-depression era. After so many years of fighting and uncertainty within America, things slowly began to start to return to normal. The late 1940s was a period where we saw the gradual revival of clothing industries and a renaissance of elegance. After a long period of shortage of materials, the fashion industry began to boom. Boutiques popped up everywhere, making the newest styles accessible to the wider public. Now was the perfect time for fashion industries to capitalize off of new clientele, but there was a shift in their audience. In a pre-war world, older women ran the fashion scene. But by the 1940s, as museum curator Francois Boucher states, it is indeed the younger woman who now dictates even the main lines of fashion. The accent is on youth. During World War II, factory women popularized denim, something that would become a staple within the Seven Sisters style. Jeans were comfortable, offered flexibility to the wearer, and required minimal laundering. Thus again arose allegations of manliness towards the girls, as they sported their dusty rolled-up jeans, button-down shirts, with shirt tails flying free, oversized polo coats thrown messily on top, ending gracefully with the addition of loafers to tie the look together. There are very few things more important to a Seven Sisters woman than keeping family tradition alive. But by doing so, they may exploit their privileged upbringing. In a nutshell, these institutions were elite bastions of exclusivity and intelligence for the white woman who had strong roots in her country. White women's colleges didn't exactly let anyone in either. Black scholar W.E.B. Du Bois conducted a study in 1900 where he noted that it was easier for a black man to get into a white men's college than for a black woman to get into a white women's college, and noted that the white women's colleges were especially unyielding with letting black women into their institutions. The privilege of these students oozed from the heirlooms that adorned them. They acquired timeless pins and brooches from grandma, perfect to jazz up their mom's cashmere cardigan. Wearing grandpa's old raccoon coat was the perfect way to stay on vogue during a 1920s trend revival in the 1950s. Charm bracelets were also used to express how well-traveled a girl was, and this fad hit it so big that stores like Tiffany & Co. began to sell charms. It may be no coincidence that the school best known for establishing this Seven Sisters style, Vassar, was most reluctant in admitting black women into their institution. But with that being said, black attendees of these colleges did have similar upbringings to their classmates. Their socioeconomic status differed from the average black woman, as many attendees of the school were daughters of politicians, lawyers, actors, and typically had fairer complexions. William Smith College was no different, as their first black graduate, Gloria Robinson Lowry, was described as having a closet full of clothes and had a notably fair complexion, which may have helped her get into the school. It's hard to get a good sense of the uniqueness of the style of these graduates before the civil rights movement within the 1960s. The enrollment numbers of these women were so low, and many of them were not allowed to live on campus. So it's pretty hard to find examples of these women on online archives. The most in-depth example of Black women's style at these predominantly white institutions come from Mount Holyoke's Black History website. Almost all of the photos included were headshots, but at least from this we can see that these women were doing the same pin curl hairstyles as their white colleagues, and didn't shy away from a crisp white button-down or a finely knit sweater. Despite the laid-back approach of their dress on campus, and no matter how expensive their outfit may actually be, the Seven Sisters women knew when to follow the general rules of the time. Over the weekend, girls would dress up in their nicest skirts, McMullen blouses, Shetland sweaters, and more lavish items, as it became apparent that Seven Sisters only dressed up for men. The simple shift in who is viewing these women is what sets William Smith College apart from any of the other institutions discussed. No matter how much they hated the statesmen, it made these women dress like it was the weekend every single day. Earlier, I had touched on the staple items of the Seven Sisters style: the button-down, cardigan, blazer, saddle shoes, loafers, and jeans. Almost all of these were explicitly present within William Smith's style from the 1930s to the 1960s, but one of these makes an appearance much later. Jeans were almost completely absent in the public eye at William Smith until the 1970s. After combing through the archives of both historic Geneva and the HWS archives, the presence of jeans on William Smith women is only available in places where the female viewer can see. The Pine Yearbook, started in 1912 by the students of William Smith, held a glimpse into the raw emotion of the students, specifically a version of them that didn't care about the lingering presence of men at the bottom of the hill. Rolled-up jeans can be spotted in the Pine as early as 1944, and it looks as though this garment was frequently worn indoors and in the harsh upstate snow. The significance of the concealment of this garment further exploits the William Smith girls' desire as to not be viewed as manly by the men surrounding them, akin to what the rest of the world was doing to the Seven Sisters women who bravely sported a pair. The record of these laid-back William Smith students through the female gaze is altered when the school combined their yearbook with Hobart College in 1962. And from then on, until at least the mid-70s, William Smith students were presented to the world as the prim and proper girls that their middle to upper-class parents wanted them to be. Willie Smithers followed the Seven Sisters' feminine style to a T. There are countless examples of these women sporting pin-curled bobs with button-front cardigans, paired with a Peter Pan collar peeking out, knee-length skirts, slouchy socks, and saddle shoes during the 1940s. On fancier occasions, they wore either matching sets of blouses and skirts, or a simple yet elegant dress with pearls and heels. On colder days, the women didn't shy away from a wool statement blazer or a luxury Shetland sweater and a plaid skirt. During this era, women were rarely seen without their lips painted bright red. Actually, in every example I found of William Smith women during this time, they had their lips painted red, even if they were just sitting in their room studying. Not only was this makeup choice fashionable, but it was political as well, as the red lip has origins in women's suffrage, when makeup revolutionary Elizabeth Arden influenced suffragettes to put it on as a badge of courage. During World War II, red lipstick became an anti-fascist statement for the citizens of the Allied powers, as Hitler notably hated the look, and shades of red were even matched to the trimmings of the fighting woman's uniform. Thus, the Genevan students joined millions of other women in supporting their country through cosmetic choices. Again, during the 1950s, pants were rarely seen outside of the Pine as to not give the wrong idea to possible male suitors. Bow ties and vests began to make an appearance at William Smith during this decade, but a shift back towards tradition is evident within the early 60s. It appears in photos that the Willie Smithers of the swinging 60s were wearing the classic camel hair coats, Brooks Brothers button-downs, and crew neck sweaters. Skirts were still the preferred clothing item of choice, though they did gradually grow shorter during this decade. In almost every photo of students during the time, the woman of choice is sporting a pair of brown loafers, likely from the classic GH base brand, who made shoes for stars like Audrey Hepburn. Looking to more stars for inspiration, camel hair coats were replaced by the utilitarian trench. Superstars at the time like Marlene Dietrich, Sophia Loren, and Twiggy all famously sported the garment. With their influence, it seemed like the trench coat was the perfect piece of outerwear for William Smith students. It allowed them to transition from spring into winter, and it allowed them to get something from their father's closet that they could throw over their feminine outfits. Finally, in the 70s, denim was worn by the overwhelming majority of the students. Colorful denim shorts, bell-bottoms, and wide-leg jeans all graced the students of William Smith. Button-down shirts with a more dramatic pointed collar were on the rise, along with floral and paisley patterned blouses as the hippie movement reached its peak. This sudden shift in women's dress towards a love of jeans wasn't out of the blue. We actually have Richard Nixon to thank. In 1974, political activist Mary McCarthy went back to her alma mater, Vassar, to explore how students' psyche has changed since her graduation in 1933. Unfortunately, with both the Vietnam War and the Watergate scandal, students were in a very fragile place at the time. The young adults of the time started to believe that they had less of an effect on the happenings of the world, and a loss of innocence was afoot. Across America, students were shifting their style to signify rebellion against this leadership, and in the case of William Smith students, to opt for a more laid-back pair of jeans. The style of William Smith students was undoubtedly influenced by those in the Seven Sisters Consortium. They took key elements of a style that was daring and incorporated them into their everyday wardrobes. The societal impact of sharing a campus, partially with men, definitely influenced the style of these William Smith women, but it also put them in a league of their own when it came to ultra-preppy style. Socioeconomic influences and political tragedies shaped the style of all women's colleges across America. Today, many women still look to alumni for inspiration, thus showing how women's collegiate style will never die.